Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. Big show for you today. Power packed, lots of guests. First, the ones you always get, the ones you come here for. The Dean, Bill Kureilc, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. Could not have two better guys on here considering Ohio high school football kicks off this evening. Our long wait is over. Real football is back. We're going to preview all that is good when it comes to Ohio State prospects on the prowl in the state of Ohio. And that includes Antwoine Higgins from Cincinnati Anderson. Mark will have an offer evaluation, tease of that up. I'll have these guys on till 9:30, and then at 9:30, Dane Brugler, NFL draft expert from The Athletic, will hop on and talk to us about the Buckeyes about to start the season, who could be ending it with NFL riches. We do this every year, and it gives you kind of a good sense of who to follow specifically for the draft. And then don't be surprised if we get an appearance from the one and only Brad Rubin. He's a canine. As I've told you guys, I'm in the process of becoming an empty nester. My wife is taking child 3, youngest, to school. He's second one to empty nest. My daughter my daughter boogies on the 31st, and then into the wilderness of life. But don't be surprised if the dog hops in. I got no one helping him. He's looking out the door now. And as you know, if anyone crosses in front of our house, they're not supposed to do that. And he chimes in. Unfortunately, I can't give the dog any cornbread hemp to chill him out, even though it is America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy, not meant for canines, meant for humans, meant for bucknutters. This is your key to a happier, healthy hour. Lay off the booze. 1-to-1 THC CBD ratio, 10 milligrams per gummy, just the right dose. No harsh solvents, no synthetic ingredients. And like I tell you guys every time, cornbread hemp would not continue to market with us if you guys didn't continue to purchase cornbread hemp. Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners, if you're going to get started, 30% off your first order. Use promo code Bucknuts at checkout. Cornbread hemp /Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts, 30% off. Cheers to a happier, healthy hour. Welcome to the Dean, Bill Kureilc, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter. Gentlemen, it's a holiday of sorts. It's the official kickoff of high school football in Ohio is tomorrow night. But a lot of schools get going today. Here in town, we have the annual Alter Fairmont Tilt, which is, you want to see, I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but if you want to see tailgating for a high school game and people renting out yards to put pegs in, that's your spot. You guys are vets on the trail here. Bill, we're first going to get started with a little bit of semi-good news. By that semi, I mean not good news. One of the long recruitments we followed is going to end this evening. At one point in time, we thought it would be Ohio State. We don't think that anymore, but we've got to talk about it to get it off the docket. Bill, Braylon Womack, bring us up to speed, and let's close the book on that one.
Well, first of all, Dan, are you surviving another child taken to college and near an empty nesting?
I'm not sure yet. That's a good question. I mean, have you guys ever seen the Arby's commercial where the guy's running down the street and there's no one there and he's like, "Where is everybody?" That's me. I don't have many. You're looking at my extracurricular activities here, or my curricular activities. So who knows? We'll see. When my daughter leaves on the 31st, I may be a puddle of tears. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, I like I said, been there, done that. Completely understand. And our pastor at church just had the same thing last weekend. His daughter is going all the way to Birmingham, Alabama, and it's not the easiest thing to do. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's no UAB for the Rubin family. So we'll stick to the Midwest. and New York City. But we digress.
Maybe I'm a sociopath because I can't wait for these kids to get out of here.
Yeah, you say that.
Yeah, I mean, did you guys ever go through that phase? Did you guys ever go through that phase where you're like, yeah, if they left tomorrow, I would probably be happy. Get my 12-year-old and 15-year-old out of here.
I told Bill this, but I got a call. I told both of you guys. I think I got a call from Manhattan at 3:30 a.m. last Saturday night, and I was very happy at that point in time. My son was out of the house because if he was in the house, I would have killed him, and I'd be in jail. So yes, we'll get through it. We'll get through it. We won't have Braylon Womack to ease our pain, Bill.
Yeah, he is set to finally make the long-awaited, long-anticipated announcement. He's actually the time is 8 p.m. Eastern time this evening, and it is going to be right here on our 247 Sports YouTube channel for his announcement. So that's a good thing, but the not so good thing is I do not expect it to go Ohio State's way unless something changes. Again, I never like to say never in recruiting, but I'm not anticipating this one. And again, it gets back to the thing we've talked about over and over and over again, in at least in part, is that, is Ohio State going to be in on paying first to the current players or paying for players to come to Ohio State? And their first order of business is really, and they've done a great job of this, keeping their guys that they really want to keep at Ohio State, and they've had tremendous success at it. For instance, you knew they were not going to be able to keep Marvin Harrison Jr., but a lot of those other guys, whole lot of those other guys stayed, and Ohio State won a national championship. Michigan did a similar thing the year before. It's I think it's a proven way of doing things myself.
I can't disagree with you, Bill, and you and I have talked about this. Can't have it both ways. People would be hard-pressed to name an Ohio State player that left for another program that we wanted to retain. That's part of that as well. But, I mean, I get it. And we will deal with it. Bill, the question that comes up, and we got to answer this one real quick because this has something to do with it. Comes from one of our best, Doug's. We still have Blaine Bradford, don't we? That, of course, is the safety committed from Baton Rouge, an equally hard place to get a player out of. But they're not paying a second safety. So, Bill, make everyone feel better and tell them Blaine Bradford is going to be a Buckeye.
Well, again, I like my long-time motto is never say never in recruiting. But to this point, and I've checked on Blaine and with his family, they have shown no inclination to go anywhere else, neither Blaine nor his family. Now, again, things can change, and it's a long way to National Signing Day. But I'm just saying that right now, while other, LSU is not giving up, he's shown no inclination to go anywhere else. I'll say that.
All right. So we've put that to bed. I realize everybody.
As I'm trying to get into this podcast, you guys, now that Bill's back, I realize I'm chopped liver and I'll just be quiet. But, if you saw Good Will Hunting, there was a scene where Robin Williams had to meet with Matt Damon that first time as a psychologist, and it kind of messed with his head. And I feel like that's kind of the Buckeyes with recruiting sometime. They let recruits kind of mess with their head. And when he met with Matt Damon the second time, he said, after I came to a realization, he goes, I went off into a nice deep sleep and I never worried about it again, so to speak. In this day and age of recruiting, if we miss on anything, any position, any player, hider, whatever you're depressed about, guess what's going to happen in 2 years? We're going to go buy what we need to make that class right. And if you know that and you believe that, and we've just watched it happen, and you'll watch it happen year after year, you're just going to drift off into a nice peaceful sleep and not really worry about recruiting so much, because we spend so much time in, are we going to get this one? Are we going to get that one? And that we're going to follow it, but I think we should follow it without the angst or worry that, this may make us the number 5 class, not the number 1 class. Who cares? We'll make it the number 1 class in a year or two when we realize, we need a safety. who's the best safety in the country? Not only that we missed, that everybody missed. And now he's at Northwestern State or something, and we'll go get him there. And I'm just making up a college because I don't want to degrade anybody's college, but there are misses that show up in the MAC, show up in all these different conferences that everybody missed on that are NFL players. So Ohio State is always choosing from the top of that pile as a retread or a way to make up for whatever they missed. So, yeah, sorry for that little rant on that, but I guess are we missed? We're going to get this one. I'm call me one that's just going to follow it, not going to worry about it.
I feel like I'm a broken record here, but I just don't see it as being a negative situation currently, especially because you got to be judged by results. If this turns into a huge talent deficit situation, then I would see them changing tack. But I keep going back to this. There are guys on the roster now who they, added in the transfer portal, who Ohio State did not offer out of high school. You can look forward at Bucknuts to much more coverage in the next year of guys who might go into the portal. Believe me, I've built an extensive list. Did I go to Scouting Ohio and see who committed out of the state of Ohio, Division I? And did I go down all the sophomore defensive linemen and see that there's about 20 guys? We need about one or two of them to play at an Ohio State caliber at their school, and we can import them? Yes. And that's just this state. So it's not going to be the full-fledged weather report booked out for 14 days. You're going to get a 3-day report, and then we're going to have to fill in. Don't worry about the elite of the elite guys. They're still going to get a certain number of elite guys in every single recruiting class. Look at the class. Look at last year's class. Look at the guys that got coming. We're going to be good at quarterback. We're going to be good at receiver at an elite level. Most of the other sites you hear having angst about recruiting, those are two of the main positions they struggle to recruit. We take those for granted here. Last point on this. We also take for granted that the two guys who make the most money on Ohio State right now are generational players. Generational. And they make a lot of money. So don't forget, when they come off the books, you're not going to be paying people the same you pay Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith. That money will be spread elsewhere. Yada, yada, yada. All right.
Also, could I add one more thing, Dan?
You can, Bill.
If people are in angst about the way Ohio State is doing things right now, and I will say that if Ohio State feels like they are doing things correctly, but they're still monitoring it, they're evaluating, as they always do. And if you think back to when NIL first started, I remember there was some angst about on our board and about how Ohio State was doing things. You know, were they taking the right approach, doing the right things? Why were some schools getting some top players? There was angst then, and Ohio State did make some tweaks and changes as they evaluated things, and they figured it out. In fact, in my opinion, they figured it out as well or better than anybody in the country. And they will be ready to make a pivot if they need to. If they need to change things up some from what they're currently doing, they will be ready and they will make that pivot.
Yeah, I mean, this is the question I also would ask. Does everyone think that Mark Pantoni doesn't want to win games? Did that change? Do they think that these guys will do what it takes to win games? I'm not worried about that. So we're going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt. At least I'm going to. I get it. We were into a new era, and there are people who just don't think they're doing it the right way. We're not going to – this is not an era where people convince you of changing your mind. I think we know this. Nobody changes their mind anymore until they see results in all fields. So we will deal with that. All right. I got to tell you guys about Factor meals so I can eat up and get ready to talk about high school football here. Factor is one of our best sponsors. Chef created, dietitian approved meals ready in just 2 minutes. taking the hassle out of eating well, fresh, never frozen, not the microwave meals we grew up with. I always think back to the movie Risky Business, where Joel, played by Tom Cruise, is on his own. He picks up the Salisbury steak and it's frozen. And man, those things were disgusting. No longer. I love the grilled chicken and sun-dried tomatoes meal. Had one for dinner last night. They have different salmon meals. I love many others. You got to try their delicious smoothies. My kids love those. Get started at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off. Use code Bucknuts50 off, 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code Bucknuts50 off at factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 off, 50% off plus free shipping. All right, Bill, high school football season kicks off this evening. What are your plans for tonight and this weekend?
Well, I know Mark is, I'm almost certain Mark is going out tonight. I will be on the road tomorrow night. I will be at Delaware Hayes to see Favor Aki, and I'm really looking forward to that. I've seen Favor multiple times this spring and summer. I went to his spring showcase, and I think Mark was there too, if I remember right. And of course at Ohio State he camped and so on. So I've seen him, but I have not seen him actually in a game. I did not see him last year because there were just more guys on my radar screen that to go see, and you can only be in one place unless you're Mark Porter. Then you're in two places at once. But I get to see him for the first time tomorrow night against Buckeye Valley. That is a rivalry game. Anybody familiar with the turf in Ohio? Delaware kind of butts up. The Delaware Hayes School District butts up against the Buckeye Valley School District, so that'll be a good one. And the Buckeye Valley team was 7-5 last year, so I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Nobody has seen Favor Aki this year yet, Bill, because he's been in bubble wrap, as we discussed in the boarding house. One of many high school players. You talk about the trickle-down effect of the NFL. Now nobody plays in preseason. There is no preseason in college, and then high school kids, if you are a guaranteed stud, they are bubble wrapping you. So we will see Favor Aki for the first time as a senior for real tonight. This weekend. Marcus, yourself.
Yeah, and one thing about Favor, we watched this film in direct comparison to Savion Hyder. Like, we watched one and then we watched the other one back to back. And I think we all said that, Favor may be like a little quarter step off him, a half step off him. There was a little more twitch with Hyder, but we thought Favor was pretty twitchy. And me being the scout saying, watch for his senior tape. We may have stole one here. If he somehow gained that quarter step or half step in the offseason and fine-tuned his body, you may be getting a prize right there. As for me, Bill, I like how you think I'm in two places at one time. In fact, I wouldn't mind the name Mark Omnipresent Porter. How about that?
Grand Poobah's too good. Sorry.
Okay, I'll keep firing shots out there. Nothing's going to stick. But, yeah, Avon Lake versus St. Ignatius tonight. There's a couple players on that field we need to talk about. The defensive end for Avon Lake, Lance, had a great camp, but it's no longer a discussion with Ohio State. Avon was a state championship team last year, and they're the type of team that is now reloading. Mike Elder up there, the head coach, has done an unbelievable job of getting that program firing on all cylinders. The offseason, their showcase was probably one of the better showcases in Ohio. St. Ignatius will have players. They're kind of on the rebound. When I was at St. Ignatius' showcase, I saw tight ends and quarterbacks I want to revisit. Receiver there, you guys may remember the name Haddad. Cody, his brother Trey Haddad, is a receiver, and we will make sure we give him a good luck. I hope some balls go his way and wish him the best. Tomorrow night, I'll be Trotwood, Madison, Cleveland Heights, and then I'll try to get over to Huber Heights, Wayne for the second half, and hopefully that score isn't out of control and Jameer Brown can still put up some points. And Monday or next week, we'll have great video of Buckeye prospects from 2025, what we've all been waiting for. No more talking about the past.
Mark, talk a little bit about the Trotwood game, because you're going to see a guy we're going to talk about forever here that I actually think Ohio State will end up getting at Trotwood.
Yeah, Demarcus Weish, he'll be the guy to check out. As a freshman, I said this a couple podcasts ago, I thought he was his older brother. I thought the younger brother was the older brother, and the older brother was the younger brother. That's
two brothers.
Yeah. So we're going to be checking him out. I want to see how well he moves. That's usually my progression for young guys. Sometimes they have the body sooner than they have the movement skills. I'm not saying that's the case here, but when I see him live, I'm going to see how many times he can turn the shoulders of the guard or whoever he's going against as he's going in the backfield. Is he a penetrator? Is he a run stuffer? Is he a pass rusher? So let's get all that stuff hashed out for the Buckeye fans. And, hopefully Monday I'll try to get my best angle. I'll try to zoom in on him and start the season off with the best video of the year.
The class of 2028, the highest rated player in the state of Ohio, of course. And right now, Mark, we expect him to be a defensive end or a defensive tackle. He's got the DL designation.
Yeah, I think defensive tackle. Yeah, he's definitely and again, what I just said, well, we check movement skills early on because that's usually the second part of it after the size. Maybe I come out and say, hey guys, this is a Hayward. He's a 3-4 end, or he's going to, be able to kick out there and do some damage at end. And, it's so young. We're 2028. 15-year-olds. We're talking about kids who may not have a car license yet, and we're seeing how they fit into the Ohio State plan. So we always try to keep that in check. And you guys have heard me say before, I don't like to anoint or put the cart in front of the horse. And the last thing I ever want to do is come back on a player and say, oh, I gave him too much hype, because there is enough hype on the internet already. We don't need Mark Porter adding to it.
Sure we do. But we digress.
All right, only Mark, with Ohio State guys, we might not get. That's when it stings around here.
I'll say this. I know people are getting, like I said, have a bad taste in their mouths when it comes to recruiting. The guys who are elite Ohio players will always make up the core of Ohio State's team forever. That's never going to change. Ohio State recruits the state of Ohio as well as any of the, I saw 24/7 had a story the other day about what state produces the most talent. And it's a relative statement. But Ohio, percentage-wise, we get the majority of the guys that we go after in the state. There was a time when we never lost anyone in the state that we offered. Now that's not going to be that way because, for example, just look at Braylon Womack, even though it's not in state. He's not choosing between Ohio State and Georgia or Ohio State and Alabama or Ohio State and Oregon. He's choosing between Ohio State and Auburn because Auburn's willing to overpay for a guy like that to have in their class, and Ohio State theoretically doesn't need to do that. All right, let's talk about the man of the hour, and that is Antwoine Higgins, one of the last videos, maybe the last we'll feature with film from last year and some mixed in from the summer, I would hope, Mark. Tell me about Antwoine Higgins. Actually, Bill, why don't you tell us about Antwoine Higgins from Ohio State's perspective, because I thought you had an interesting story on him. And then anyone who missed Mark's chat Tuesday, the transcript ran yesterday. He'll be chatting every Tuesday. And one of the questions was, how do we recruit Cincinnati? This is a kid from Cincinnati. Bill, the recruitment of Antwoine Higgins. Who is he? What do you think of him? And then Ohio State's vibes, and then we'll get Mark on the beat here.
Yeah, he's a 6'3", 215-pound linebacker edge. Cincinnati Anderson High School, who they've developed a great program, and they've got some really good players every year. They've got two of the best in Ohio. In my opinion, they've got two of the top 5 kids in the state of Ohio for the class of 2027, and Antwoine Higgins and cornerback Ace Alston. Higgins is someone that, in my opinion, doesn't have much of any allegiances right now. He's an Ohio kid, but he's by far not a lock to go to Ohio State at all. He is looking at Ohio State. In fact, he's told me that he is considered. He doesn't know if he will be at the Ohio State-Texas game. It's a possibility. But he wants to get to an Ohio State game this year. But he already knows he's going to a Tennessee game coming up here in the next month or so. So he's a kid that it's not going to be an easy lift, so to speak, for Ohio State to get him to end up at Ohio State. Ohio State, by the way, is recruiting him as a middle linebacker first. It's kind of interesting. Some people see him as an edge guy, a rush guy from the perimeter. Ohio State likes him as a middle linebacker, and there is mutual interest, but it would be a stretch to say right now that anybody is the favorite for Antwoine Higgins.
Marcus?
Okay. I'm on deck.
Hold on a sec, Mark. Hold on a sec. Can you please address at some point in time, though, the positional stuff? Because I don't think you see him necessarily as a middle backer.
Yeah, I might be out on a thing here. I listed him as an outside linebacker and a defensive end. Seeing him in person
that's how 24/7 Sports has him listed as that as well.
Okay. I didn't look at I didn't cheat and use their ranking to do that. So we're on the same page. That's good. Two people see maybe the same thing. And maybe you see what we're seeing is this is a big, thick outside linebacker. He is not, he doesn't look like a former tailback, but this is what he's doing that's special. He's running vertical with guys that can run. Mm-hmm. So he's giving you this thing where, hey, I can run around like a linebacker. A lot of his films from this defense right here, he's going to be lined up on the edge, and he's going to be playing that defensive end type of player. I kind of said, remember Willie McGinnis? And maybe because I got Matt Patricia on my brain, I'm thinking, oh, this is those type of 3-4 outside linebackers that are 250, 260 pounds that do a little bit of everything. They can come off the edge and rush. Look at him blow up that guard. I mean, that running back. You can't ignore that he can do that. So is he a middle linebacker? He could do it. Okay. But yeah, the natural edge position, he's kind of built for that. He can set the edge with the size he has, but he has athletic ability to occasionally drop. Ohio State's been a lot of 4-3 ends for a while. We have our backside, whatever we call him, Leo, or that position that drops out every now and then. I think that name has changed a few times from different coordinators. But that type of kid, hybrid. And then in my write-up, I said, let's just see where this kid's body goes. He was a sophomore. That's what we just watched, sophomore tape. He's got junior and senior tape. Maybe it just solves itself. All of a sudden, he's 265 pounds, or he does what other players like Sincere Johnson does, because he has a little Sincere Johnson to him. Maybe he really tones down and cuts off all the baby fat and says, I'm going to stick around 215, 220, and I'm going to fight this body style. So, and I don't mean to say fight it, but, train to stay at a linebacker position and not let yourself head down a defensive. And that may be his personal choice.
Very interesting. Very interesting player, and kind of interesting now that this is the second time I feel like they go through this with the middle linebacker guys. They went through this with Arvell Reese. We were told he was going to move to the edge, and Ohio State, maybe Ohio State has identified a type of middle linebacker, kind of almost like a slimmer Rolando McClain beast in the middle, for anyone who remembers Alabama and that. All right. Appreciate the Dean stopping by. Appreciate the Grand Poobah stopping by. We're going to get into the NFL draft now, and rightfully so, because we have our next ad. It is Chubbies. You guys, you were here on Monday, saw me wearing the Cowboys shirt and Dave wearing the game day coaching shirt of the Bengals. Very good stuff. Chubbies is an incredible company, and they are ready for some football, and they're ready to help you out with your NFL collection. Whether you're tailgating, grilling, or riding the highs and lows of the game from your couch, Chubbies has the officially licensed NFL gear to keep you looking like the ultimate fanatic. Because Chubbies is the ultimate football apparel brand. So much so they created their own fantasy league. George Kittle, Ian Rappaport, and others have come together to assemble the Chubbies League on NFL Fantasy. Each week, the top 5 scorers will win a chance at a Chubbies polo shirt and shorts combo with their team's logo. The grand champion gets the chance at the ultimate fan experience. 5 cities, 5 stadium game tour with a +1, meaning you can take a date. While the fantasy flop faces a hilarious and unforgettable punishment only Chubbies could pull off. Head to chubbyshorts.com/the Chubbies League to learn more and have some fun. Get ready for the most outrageous fantasy football season of your life. And wouldn't you know, we got a deal for you here. $10 off with the promo code Bucknuts at chubbyshorts.com/Bucknuts. $10 off your order with the promo code. And that includes the NFL collection. All right. Did I time that ad perfectly or not? I think I did. The one and only Dane Brugler has returned now with the Athletic. He's been with the Athletic for a while. Bear of the Beast. Dane, I have to say, I don't know if you did this for me personally, but I kind of had a heartfelt moment the other day when I listened to you and Dave Hellman start your rebranded podcast, Building the Beast, because for the real geeks like me who've been watching the Dallas Cowboys draft show literally now, I think you guys said it 2014, just another thing that makes me feel old. Dane, I could tell you were kind of touched that you and Dave are back together. I'm sure they had to hit the salary cap hard for that, but very good to see you back with some of the Dallas Cowboys draft show alumni.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I mean, it was last year we didn't do an in-season draft podcast, and we heard a lot of people, kind of missing it. And so we decided to bring it back this year. And we were talking about, hey, who should really host this? Dave Hellman is one of the first names that came up. And yeah, my history with him, both professionally, personally, he's a good friend, but we also have good chemistry together when we're talking draft. He's a big college football guy, so it works well. I can't wait. We're going to be doing it weekly throughout the season. And then, of course, once the calendar turns to draft season in January. So really pumped for that. And based on, the initial feedback, I know a lot of people are as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the show is called Building the Beast. Very good name because it's an accurate name. Dane, of course, releases The Beast every year. At the end of the year, give the people a quick tease. I'm sure if someone's listening to this podcast at this time, I'm sure they know what the Beast is. But for those few who don't, let them know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most comprehensive NFL draft resource available. Last year there were, I don't even know how many players there were. Almost 3,000 players, or over 2,500 players in there ranked. All the reports, all the pro day information. All the background, it's the stuff you're not going to get anywhere else because it's directly from scouts. It's directly from players themselves or families. So it's just kind of a one-stop shop, and it's a year-round process to put it together. And so that's why this podcast is perfect for, it's aptly named, like you said, Building the Beast, because it's all kind of gearing up as part of the process for the final product, which is the Beast, and something that, it doesn't matter if you're a diehard fan, if you're a casual fan, if you don't even like the NFL, if you're just a college fan, there's something in there that everyone is going to appreciate and enjoy. And so, I'm working on that right now. Like I said, it's a year-round thing. Won't be out until, right around April 1st. But all the work that goes into it, it starts over the summer and really lays the foundation for what's to come.
I've told Dane this before with an editorial background. It is one of the more intimidating ventures anybody sets sail on. I can feel it in my stomach, the nerves of just having that on your head all the time, because you could be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on it. So I'm sure you have to actually work in some parenting, because last time I checked, Dane not short on the kids department. And he's also blessed with the great Warren, Ohio work ethic. So it's not an issue. So for those of you who need a little bias here, keep in mind that I can hear Dane fighting his Ohio bias sometime. He won't even probably admit to that, but I can feel it. All right. If you were here last year, Dane is the most comprehensive. If you didn't think Tyleik Williams was going to be a first-round draft pick, you learned it here last year, X months in advance. If you look back, even the things that Dane maybe didn't have nailed specifically, everything makes sense. You can lay it all out. And I think Ohio State's run to the championship probably boosted everybody's draft stock a little bit. It's the first time we've ever got to see a 4-team playoff, a 4-game playoffs run. And, it's kind of like the NCAA tournament in a way. I think that'll probably juice some draft eligibility from guys they've seen. However, we're back now with a new crop of dudes. I sent Dane a list of guys. I don't know if he could tell this, but the first 6 names, I pulled off the Senior Bowl list. because they've identified guys now for that. So you can tell I don't write like in that mechanical style. So you can see the first ones are all like that. So we're going to take them in order. This happens at Ohio State. It did not happen last year, even though Tyleek, I think, was probably considered the number one guy. Emeka went first. There's literally no doubt who the first Buckeye off the board will be this year. I think the discussion is really going to be more a general discussion on how high a safety can be picked. The one and only Caleb Downs. If there's been a better defensive player at Ohio State, I don't know who it would be. Maybe there have been some as good. He's a cheat code. I think he's Ed Reed. Your thoughts on the great Caleb Downs?
Yeah, I mean, he's just, if you enjoy football, you enjoy watching Caleb Downs play because of how smart he is. You can tell how much he puts into this, the preparation. It shows on tape. And the way I described him was, if you play safety, you need a sixth sense. You need to have an understanding of what the offense is trying to do and where to be to either blow up the run, make a play in coverage. You are the last line of defense. And if the ball carrier gets past you, that could be 6. That could impact the scoreboard. So it's really, there's a lot of pressure on safeties to walk that fine line of being aggressive, but then also being a little conservative. And so Caleb Downs does it better than anybody. If I had one critique, it would be, I wish that could see more of him as a single high player, as someone that's, whether it's going to be in the post or whether it's just playing more deep coverage. So I can see that range. I could see him go, you mentioned Ed Reed. We just don't see him get to play like Ed Reed all that much because he's close to the line of scrimmage or he's playing man-to-man, and he's really good at that. I just wish we could see him more in those deep coverage situations, and maybe that would lead to more turnovers. That's kind of one thing that was missing from his tape, is you just don't see a ton of created turnovers. 16 games last year, he forced 2 turnovers. He had 2 interceptions, no fumbles. So and I say that more of as a nitpick than anything, because this is an amazing player. But if you're going to draft a safety top 10, ideally you want a guy that is going to get you the football back. And so that's what I'll be watching for this year. Now, obviously, new defensive coordinator. I doubt his role is going to change all that much. I think we'll see him in the slot. We'll see him just kind of moved around, because that's kind of the freedom of having a player like this, is you can play him in the nickel. You can line him up on the outside. You can do all these different things with him, especially with some of the turnover that this team has in the secondary. But it'll be interesting just to see how they do use him. I want to see a little bit more creating those turnovers this year than we saw last year.
He actually dropped, I think, 2 interceptions that I think if he had the chance at him again, he'd probably catch it. So we'll see. I just can't remember the feeling you get when he comes up to make a tackle. He's just a special player, and
he's not that big either. It's not like he's bigger than everybody. And I mean, he is maybe 6 foot. He's probably like 5'11" and change, just over 200 pounds. And so the size doesn't necessarily jump out at you. And even the speed's good, but it's not like 4.3. It's probably more like 4.4, and that's fine. But he's not doing this because he's bigger and faster than everybody. He's doing it because he's smarter than everybody. He understands how to do it. He's technically sound. And, he got coaching from Nick Saban in year 1, then at the Ohio State squad last year. And it's going to be new defensive coaches for the Buckeyes this year. So I think that's only going to help him moving forward, is having all that background. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, but how early does he get drafted? So my initial top 50 came out today on The Athletic. People go check it out. But he debuted at number 4, but we don't see safeties go top 5. It just does not happen. We rarely see safeties go top 10. It's happened once in the last 15 years. So can Caleb Downs change that? Like I said, I don't think he's going to be a big tester necessarily, where it's just like, oh, wow, that's going to give him a little bit of bump in the process. So I think coaches are going to love him, but will a GM look at him and say, okay, he's enough of a difference maker where, I think everybody's going to like him, but is a GM going to see enough of a difference maker to say, yeah, we have the 6th overall pick. We have no problem taking Caleb Downs here. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out here over the next 7-8 months.
Great lineage. Dad Gary played running back in the league. His brother Josh is a wide receiver.
Yeah.
He played Georgia high school football, which I would make an argument that where he played in Gwinnett County is the highest level of public school football being played. A year at Alabama, a year at Ohio State. He has great instincts. He could play offense. He's a tremendous punt returner. Nitpick is a good word. We should all be so lucky. I'm going to try and go in order here. This is a little bit more difficult than it has been in the past. And I tell you what's interesting, Dane. Everyone does them. I think people in your profession are required legally to do a mock draft well in advance. So you see some goofy stuff on there, especially at the end of the first round in people's first mock draft. There are guys in those things, quarterbacks and such, who end up not even getting drafted. But I'll try and keep this as tight as possible. I'm going to go with the odds here, and I'm going to go with wide receiver Carnell Tate. And what I'd love is an evaluation of Tate, and then are we to the point now when if there's a coin toss, they're just going to take the Ohio State receiver?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with what Ohio State has put out here the last traditionally going back to the 90s, but even just more recently, the last 5-6 years, especially high in the first round. And yeah, the best player in college football, obviously, is a guy we can't even talk about yet as being a draft prospect, Jeremiah Smith, who won't be won't be eligible until next year. But, it's easy to overlook a guy like that or a guy like Carnell Tate because of Jeremiah Smith. But I think it'll end up helping Tate because so much attention is going to be on Jeremiah Smith that a guy like Carnell Tate, this could be his breakout. And we saw it a little bit last year. He was kind of that third receiver. He was always kind of the next in line. As a freshman, he was behind Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming. Last year, behind Smith and Egbuka. This year, all right, it's his chance to shine. It's his chance to show that he has what it takes to be a first-round pick. I gave him a second-round grade over the summer. What he does this year will kind of dictate where he is ultimately drafted. Does not look like a great receiver class. Looks like a good receiver class, just not a great one. And so opportunity is there for a guy like Carnell Tate to kind of keep moving up board, maybe be one of the first 2 receivers drafted somewhere in the top 30 picks. But he's a guy that he's long, he's smooth. I like him best on some of those runway routes or double moves where he has a chance. He's very smooth in and out of his breaks. So those sluggos, the out and ups, where he can use his body and sell that initial move before going the other way, transferring his momentum. He's really natural doing that. And so I think what I'm looking for the most in year 3 from him is just, what you expect from a heartline coached receiver, being technically sound with his steps, especially at the top of routes. He has those long strides where he'll close cushion quickly, but I want to see him be just a little more technically adept at creating his own separation. He has those long legs, like I said, so he gets a little bit leggy at times. So just using the feet better, creating those windows, eliminating some of those drops, just mastering his craft. I think that where he is as a rising junior is exactly what you expect. Now it's time to take that next jump for him as a he'll be really his third quarterback in 3 years. And so sometimes that could be tough. But I think with Smith on one side, Tate on the other, the opportunity is there for him to really take a jump in his development.
He's a little bit taller than people think. I think that's because he is kind of smooth. He runs like a smaller guy. He's probably pushing 6'3", 6'2 and a half, 6'3", like you mentioned. And by the way, incredible kid too. I met him when he was 17, and I walked away being like, this guy's more mature than I am. And he's been through a lot at Ohio State. I also think, and this is whether this has any effect on it, but I know Emeka Egbuka has made quite an impression in Tampa Bay. Saw him sink himself for a touchdown in the preseason.
Unsurprisingly, right?
And he sunk it, and it was like Didn't celebrate more than you'd expect. So when in doubt, I think you can sell to your fan base and your GM that you're picking an Ohio State receiver. Okay. It's not the hardest sell you're ever going to have. All right. Another guy who this time last year was being talked about as like a fringe draftable guy, but has always had the physical characteristics, played much better in the playoffs. And I think people have gone back and looked at the film, and also physically he is just gifted. And that is linebacker Sonny Styles.
And he's one of the youngest players, because remember, he reclassified his last year of high school. So he's still 20 years old as a senior. He is not yet 21. So that plays a factor as well when you look at his development and say, okay, he's 20 now. What is he going to look like at 25? And he's gotten better every year. You mentioned the physical traits, and remember, that's what NFL teams look for. They draft physical traits more so than anything else. Sonny Styles is, and this is verified, 6'4.5". So that's not an inflation. He is 6'4.5", 237 pounds, 33-inch arms. This guy is a physical specimen. He probably will run in the probably 4.57 range in the 40-yard dash. So he has speed, really just fluid athlete in space, really athletic. He is rangy. So you put it all together, speed, length, and the way that he has grown as a linebacker, where, he was a star or a safety initially, kind of made that move to linebacker, where you're closer to the action, so you have to see things quicker, and you saw that happen for him last year. As the season progressed, he started to react a little bit quicker to everything. He has that length, like I said, 33-inch arms, so he's a wrap tackler, gets his guy on the ground. This is a guy that is a starter projection in the NFL. When you put it all together, talk about traits, talk about projection. This is the type of guy that NFL teams really gravitate towards. So he debuted as a top 25 player on my top 50, and won't be surprised at all if ultimately that is where he is drafted. I think he has a chance to be the number 2 Buckeye drafted next year, behind only Caleb Downs.
Do you agree that he's currently the number 2 linebacker behind Texas's Anthony Hill?
I think he's better than Anthony Hill. I mean,
Nice.
Anthony Hill's a fine player. I also think he's being a little bit overrated as like this top 10 pick. The production's outstanding with Anthony Hill, but Sonny Styles is a better linebacker. I have Styles ranked higher. Now, we'll see if that changes throughout the year. But yeah, I think going into the year, CJ Allen, the linebacker from Georgia, is my number 1 linebacker. Styles is 2. Anthony Hill is 3.
Okay, here's my stat on Sonny Styles, and it's super obscure, but I'm telling you, if you understand it, it's staggering. First time I saw Sonny Styles was at the Flying to the Hoop basketball tournament. He was a freshman starter for an enormous Columbus public school. He did not look like a freshman. He played AAU basketball for All Ohio Red, which is the Nike team. He didn't. So, and then he reclassified. So he didn't. So the summer going into what was his senior year, at the biggest AAU tournament in the country, it's called the Peach Jam. Every year they go down there. It's loaded with NBA players, future NBA players. Styles did not start for All Ohio Red. He was a reserve guard. He finished 3rd among all players in blocks. The top 2 guys, one's on the Raptors and one's Gigi Jackson of the Grizzlies, who I think makes $8 million this year. 3rd in blocks of every player at the Peach Jam was a reserve guard from Ohio named Sonny Styles. And when they played Chris Paul's team, led by Gigi Jackson, and that team literally ate Ohio's team whole, Ohio's plan by the end of the game was everybody spread out, Sonny bring it up, Sonny go to the basket, because physically they couldn't handle him. There is no more gifted athlete, traits-wise, than Sonny Styles that maybe we've ever had. That's that. Now, will he be that player? I don't know. But 6'4.5", 237, you said, in that neighborhood.
33
he is going to run a ridiculous time. He's also probably going to jump out of the he just needs to stay healthy, man. And he's going to be a very, very wealthy man. All right, we'll go a little quicker here.
Sorry, one more thing on him too that we have to mention is I talked to a coach last year who said he's already the best leader on the team. Like the character stuff, especially for a 20-year-old, is off the charts. So exactly. So, not only do, check the boxes for the traits, the size, all that stuff, but character-wise, football character, personal character, he's aces, and that's going to help him as well throughout the process.
And listen, even to geek out even further, and I would lead this. I would borderline not recruit anybody whose dad didn't play in the NFL now, because I'm serious about that. People would be surprised if you go back through people's lineage, how many of these guys that are coming now had tremendous dads as athletes.
Sure.
I mean, Rashawn Slater's dad, Reggie Slater, was like a journeyman power forward for the Nuggets. You'd be surprised if you go back. We all know Lorenzo Styles Jr. Lorenzo Styles Sr. was no joke at Ohio State. First of all, Lorenzo Styles' name for a linebacker, is it the best name ever for a linebacker? It's in the mix. And Sonny, his name isn't Sonny, it's Alex. Sonny means he was like dad. So, I can't.
Yeah, Alexander, that's his given name. Yep.
Stud, just a pure stud. All right. Here's a guy that I find interesting, because if he was able to play the game, I said, with oven mitts on, I think he would improve his draft stock, and that is Davison Igbonosen. I'm really curious to get your thoughts on him.
Yeah, and obviously you're alluding to just the tendency to hold, tendency to be grabby. He's super aggressive, and obviously you'd rather him be more aggressive than not aggressive, and then try to coach that out of him. That's really why he came back. I mean, if he could have entered last year's draft, would have been a top 100 pick, would have given Ohio State 15 draft picks instead of 14, would have set the record. But I think he made the smart decision to go back, get better as a football player, go back for a senior year and really show what he can do. Another guy where the size immediately jumps out. Let me pull up his verifieds here. So he is over 6'1". He's almost 6'2". He's 6'017". So 6'1", 7/8", 191 pounds. Also has 33-inch arms. Anything over, you need at least 31-inch arms. That's what NFL teams, that's kind of their threshold for a corner, at least 31-inch arms. Having 33 is well above average and something that's going to help him. So he has the body type. He has speed. He'll probably run. My guess right now would be 4.43, 4.44, somewhere in that range. More than good enough to play the position. He'll be fine. He is a long, lanky, can match up press man, can play off. He has a feel in coverage. It just comes down to those panic moments that he gets downfield where the receiver gets a step, or he just gets a little bit off balance, and instead of recovering and trying to put himself back in position, his first reaction is to grab and to make contact. And there's nothing wrong with being physical. You just have to do it within the rules. And that's something that he needs to get better at this year. And if he does, if he knocks those penalties down from, it's like 13 last year, if he gets those, cuts that in half, that is something.
13 called, good Lord.
Right, exactly. I mean, how many more could have been called? I mean, he is, again, you'd rather him be more aggressive than not aggressive.
Yeah, but
you got to reel it back. And if he cuts those in half, yeah, he's got a chance to be a top 60 pick, top 50 pick. He has starter upside. It's just, I need to be able to trust you out there that you're not going to be hurting our team with those penalties. And that's something that he needs to prove this year.
I think if you're looking at potential upside, he's got it in droves. Also, people are going to be expecting him to hold. So if he doesn't do that, he'll get even more credit for not doing it, even though he shouldn't have done it in the first place. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was crude. I don't know if people remember this. The first 5 games of last year, put it this way, if he'd gotten hurt after the 5th game, he probably would have come out and been the 2nd-round draft pick. But then, you remember, and he made the incredible play at Penn State. He's the one that if everything falls in line, I could see him being a late 1st-round draft pick. Now, and everything would have to fall in line. But he's like, when you describe his body type, 6'2" with 33-inch arms, and he's got that sinewy, like one night.
Yeah.
He's almost physically the prototype. Maybe you'd like him to be 5 or 10 pounds heavier, but I mean, he's a stud. He's so intense, man.
He's
just
super
really
competitive. Yeah.
Yeah,
I had a scout
really
tell
intense.
me when he transferred from Ole Miss, he quote unquote changed the whole defensive back room.
Yeah.
Because of just how urgent he plays, tough he plays. And he's a different kind of guy with his leadership style, but he's super confident. And you want that confidence in a corner. That might be the number one, more than even the 40 time. Having confidence in a corner is so imperative, and he brings that. So, yeah, along the lines of what you're saying, he has a lot of, check the boxes at corner.
Yeah.
It's just, can he not hurt you with those penalties? That's going to be paramount for him this year.
He's got that Jersey vibe, dude. Trust me. I went to high school in Jersey. They're East Coast dudes. They're a little different. Okay. Here is my argument for the transfer portal. Not offered by Ohio State out of high school, but now predicted by many to be an All-American, tight end Max Clare.
Yeah, and I'll be really interested to see how, because you think of Ohio State in the tight end position, they've produced a lot of tight ends, but I mean, you have to go back like 30 years. The last time Ohio State had a tight end drafted in the first 2 rounds. The Cade Stovers and there's been a lot of 3rd round picks, 4th round picks, 5th round picks, but not a lot of guys in the top 2 rounds at the position. This guy can change that because of how fluid he is as an athlete, the way he can impact the passing offense. And, will they try to use the tight end a little bit more? He's not your traditional Y. He's a guy you want lined up in the backfield, in the slot. You use him all over the formation. But you're not drafting him. You're not, going to really make him a big part of your offense because of his blocking. It's more for what he does in the passing game. And so the fluid athleticism that he brings, the way he attacks the football, he has ability after the catch. He can make guys miss. He finds open zones against the defense. So I'm a big fan of the pass catcher. Now I want to see him get a little bit better as a blocker, and I want to see Ohio State really highlight him. Something that traditionally they really don't do with their tight ends in the passing game. So this year will be really interesting to see how they use a talent like this.
We used to have a run. I wouldn't call it a joke, but a running discussion that Dave Biddle, my co-host on the show, would challenge the staff. 30 receptions was always the magic number for an Ohio State tight end. That's not exactly a high bar. I think you were talking about Ricky Dudley the last time we did this.
Yeah, 96.
Yeah.
Draft. Yeah.
Really almost more of a hooper at one point. And you mentioned guys. I think Nick Vanette and Luke Farrell are still getting checks somewhere.
They are.
And those guys didn't combine for 12 receptions last year, probably. But hey.
Well, and the other tight end's got a shot late to get drafted because of his blocking. Will. I mean, he's
has merit.
Not right. He's not going to be a high volume pass catcher, but his blocking is going to give him a chance because he has some of those traditional Y traits that teams are looking for. So both Ohio State tight ends, eager to see how they, 12 personnel, 22 personnel. The receivers are going to be what impacts the scoreboard the most in this offense, just like the last few years. But the tight ends are going to help them between the 20 and the 20, moving the chains, getting them up and down the field. I just really eager to see how they use these two guys together.
I would say the best case scenario for Farrell is almost like a Dalton Kincaid type. I think Kincaid might be a little bigger, but who knows? He's done quite well, but more of a receiving guy, not necessarily your inline guy. All right. Let's go rapid fire here. Ethan Onionwa.
Yeah, and I mean, interested to hear your thoughts too. Like, is he going to start for Ohio State? Like, I know they're trying him out of guard a little bit too, just to, the more you can do, right? So, do you think he's going to start for this team?
I do not.
Yeah,
I do not. I think Philip Daniels will be the starting right tackle. Austin Sierreveld has been kind of the story.
At left tackle.
Yeah, and I've told people this. Sierreveld when he showed up on campus, I was told by the offensive line coach at the time, was already one of the top 2 run blockers on the team. He just came from a high school offense that was so run oriented, almost like a military approach, that it took him a while to learn to pass block. So they love him now. Yeah, I would be surprised if Ethan is a starter. I think some people are going to feel that's a disappointment, but just like recruiting isn't a guarantee, there's no guarantee when you get a transfer he's going to come in and adjust super quick.
Well, and I think it helps the depth when you have a play, because this is a 3-year starter. It's not like this is a guy that was a 1-year wonder at a lower program. I mean, he started at 2 years at right tackle, 1 year last year at left tackle. Massive dude. He's 6'6", 333 pounds, almost 35-inch arms. He looks the part too. Is he going to blow you away with the athleticism? No. I mean, that's what I do worry about, the foot speed and the ability to mirror and pass pro. But once he gets in front of you, once he can get his hands on you, it's over. I mean, if you put him on an island, it can get ugly. Now, more times than not, he wins, even though it looks a little bit ugly at times. Doesn't always look pretty, but he gets the job done. Moving him inside to guard might be his best long-term play, and what helps this team, immediately. This team is not going to have the same 5 starters on the offensive line for every game. It's not realistic to think that way. So whether they need him to fill in a guard or tackle, having a 6 offensive linemen like this is not the worst thing. And so now, what does that mean for him as a prospect? Time will tell. We'll see once he gets on the field and faces better competition than what we saw on the Rice tape. But he goes into the year as kind of a day 3 draft pick, and we'll see how the situation plays out.
You brought up some great points there. I think everyone's going to look at the defending champ. There's always a copycat vibe to that in some respect. And what they're going to learn about Ohio State when they go back and look at it is they have even learned they need to be deeper on the offensive line. If you're going to try and win a national championship, I mean, you could never have convinced a human being that we were going to win the national championship last year with Donovan Jackson as the left tackle. That literally would not have been on the table, and it ended up being on the table, and probably the reason Donovan went into the first round, because
no doubt
of his versatility, and that was totally unplanned. And by the way, go read up on how he's doing. Not you, Dane, but he's apparently made quite the impression with the Vikings early. Shocker. Great player. All right, I'm going to give you a list of 5 names here. These are the other guys I wrote down who could rise. They're not technically on the list now. Who of these 5 guys, based on what you've heard and what you think, who do you expect to be Ohio State's sleeper riser? And if it's someone off this list, bring it. I have Arvell Reese, Jermaine Matthews, Caden McDonald, Luke Montgomery, and the aforementioned Austin Seerveld.
Yeah, I think the Arvell Reese, the defensive guys, Arvell Reese, man, he is. His name has popped up a few times. Because when you talk about Sonny Styles, obviously scouts will gush, but then they also mention, hey, that Arvell Reese kid, he is just as big, if not wider, but he has so much ability. And we saw him. He started a few games last year. When they needed him to fill in, and he, was fine, held his own. This year, with another year under his belt, can Ohio State have the best linebacker core in the nation? It's possible with these 2 guys, and so I'm really interested to see Reese, Jermaine Matthews. I want to see him in the secondary. I know Ohio State's got a lot of young, high recruits that are going to be pushing for playing time. Matthews is going to be one of, along with Igbonosen, one of the veterans, a guy that can play on the outside. I don't think the size, speed is fine. It's good, not great, but he's a guy that's seen a lot of football. He's played a lot of football, especially in the playoffs. We saw him, throwing the Oregon tape, throwing the Texas tape. You saw him out there quite a bit. They relied on him in some of those packages. So I think Reese and Matthews are the 2 guys. And then one more I'd add, Kenyatta Jackson.
That's my fault.
He actually he snuck into my top 50 because I was looking for, all right, who's going to be a pass rusher? Because pass rushers go early. Who's going to be a pass rusher who could really emerge this year? Jackson's going to be on the list. He's big, he's long, he can set an edge, and he can bully his way to the quarterback. Can he develop more of a pass rush plan where he's deceiving blockers? And I want to see that from him this year when he's finally going to be a starter. He's kind of waited his turn. Now as a starter, can he have that breakthrough season that we've seen? Ohio State has a really good lineage of pass rushers. Just go back since the Bosas. You had Chase Young, a couple guys last year. This can Kenyatta Jackson be that next player and really prove himself to be a top 50, top 60 type of guy? He's going to have every opportunity to do that.
Tell you what, Dave Biddle calls him central casting because he looks like a defensive end in the end. I mean, he looks it when he walks out there. And here's one of the selfishly, I hope he develops, not just because he's on the Buckeyes, but he and Caden Curry at other programs would not be here. These are guys who did not start for their first 3 years and stuck around. Yes, we were able to compensate them via the NIL, and that's probably the ultimate reason they stuck around. But if you look at other programs, I think one of Ohio State's calling cards in the new era is guys don't leave here for other programs that they want. If he were able to blossom then into the NFL guy for that high level, boy, when you're selling to your guys, younger guys coming up, that if those who stay will be first-round draft picks, that's a really strong statement. I got a name for you. I always try and give you one name that you should know forever. This kid just turned 18, and you talked about the linebackers. Go look at the black stripe picture of Riley Pettijohn as he's standing. As he's standing,
Texas kid?
Of course.
Okay,
just turned 18. So he played a senior year of high school at 17. Look at him standing next to Styles and Reese. Now, Reese, to me, is Rolando McClain reincarnated, but better. Yeah. I know that's a lofty statement, but he is that dude. He doesn't even really tackle you. He's tackling the guy behind you, and you're kind of in it, and he just kind of runs through you. Sonny is more fluid and beautiful to watch. Arvell Reese is, to me, like the dark alley guy. If I got it, you know what I'm saying? Let him go in front, and he is first off the bus. We've never had two guys that – now, how they'll play, the linebacker is a cerebral spot. Those two guys just look amazing. I'm just hanging it off the hoof. Pettijohn at 18 looks like them and runs like them. I am telling you. That's my guy. I develop, I get a crush on one guy per class usually. It's Pettijohn. All right. Dane is very gracious with his time for us. And I mean this, and I've always told him that Dane is literally the best in the business when it comes to this, much like the Ohioan Bill Kureilc. The work ethic is beyond. It's just beyond. So you can follow Dane throughout the year. He's as reliable on this stuff as ever, and he's from Ohio. So tell people, Dane, if they want to follow you and your stuff, your Twitter, your editorial, and then your podcast.
Yeah, I'm at DP Brugler on Twitter, and all my work's on The Athletic. I mentioned earlier, Top 50 came out today. My position by position previews came out over the last 2 months. So you can go, I think I ranked over 400 players this summer in those articles. But yeah, this summer I've watched over 1,000 players, just getting ready for the season and scouting them, giving them a grade. Initial grade sets the stage for what this year is going to be, and all the while working on the Beast, which will come out in closer to the draft. And like I said, it's if you're even a little bit of a draft fan, you don't have to be a diehard, but if you're a little bit of a draft fan, it's something that you'll really, really enjoy. So yeah, follow all my work on The Athletic, and then check out the Beast when it's ready.
And I'm sure Dane will have a keen eye on the opener as Texas comes to play Ohio State.
Can't wait.
Oh, look at that, Dane. Las Vegas Buckeyes get in with a give Mount Union some love. Dane, a fine. Is it the Purple Raiders?
Purple Raiders.
Right on. Recruited my son out of the transfer portal. He's at NYU, but we digress. You guys have a good one. There's no one better than Dane on this. I cannot stress this enough. You know I'm a draft geek, and Dane is the leader of the pack. When he gets Brian Broaddus to The Athletic, I may actually quit my job and do that full time. So have a good one, Bucknutters.